Appreciate that.
We have Brent on the call, which we need, obviously, because he's our special guest today. And
hey, Brent, how you doing, bud?
Good. How you been?
Good, man. Good.
We got a whole bunch of folks, and of course, no conductors yet, because I think they're all still on the all hands, huh?
Yeah, the all hands are still going.
Yeah, it always runs over. That's the problem with Thursdays, unfortunately. We have our all hands right before this, and so then it becomes this thing of like, how many things can you be in a row? Last week, in fact, we had 30-30, so it was like all hands, then this, then 30-30, and I have a feeling nobody was going to be like, I'm going to be on Zoom for 3 hours straight. So yeah, you kind of run into that issue of like, you know, are you or aren't you? But you know what? Let's it's 12:03. What do you say we kick this off, Pat?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you guys all so much for joining Search from Home. So excited to have you all here today with us. As usual, ground rules. Thanks for staying on mute. Feel free to come off mute to ask questions and so forth, obviously respectively, and please do so with a camera on so we at least know that you're trying to talk and we have some sense of it, or put it in the chat. I will let you know, as usual, we have our LinkedIn group, which if you have not joined yet, please do. It's a great place to post any content we talk about in this forum, kind of following it up there so people can get access to it. Because unfortunately with Zoom, the chat disappears after we shut the meeting off. And then you're like, crap, I wish I had that thing they talked about they put in the chat. So we don't want you guys focusing too much on the chat. We'd rather you focus a lot more on the beautiful faces of fine marketers when I find them. No, I'm kidding. But thank you guys so much. I'm Stephan Bajaio, Chief Evangelist of Conductor. I have Patrick Reinhart. This time he is beneath me. That's a weird thing to say.
Yeah, we're in different spots every day, you know?
Yeah, in the boxes. One day I'm going to figure out how Zoom,
for me.
I'm going to figure out how Zoom actually figures out where to put people in a meeting. Is it like based on when
I think it's when you come in. I think you and I are usually on the top for me because I think we're designated as the hosts, but I'm not sure.
Got it. Well, today we have Brent Watters joining us from Ariat. So excited to have you here, Brent. Very, very happy you could join us today. I know Ariat's a pretty big company with a lot of e-commerce going on. Figured you could shed some insight as to what you're seeing. Give us a sense of what's going on in this crazy COVID world. So by all means, please take it away. What are you, let's start off with like an introduction. What's your role at Ariat, Brent? And like, what do you do? Give everyone a little bit of an introduction as to who you are.
Yeah, thank you, Stephan. So my official title is Senior Manager of SEO Content and Affiliates. I wear a lot of different hats, so at the company, as you can probably imagine. We also dabble with conversion rate optimization, and I work directly on our digital acquisition team with the entire team, and we're constantly working cross-functionally and constantly brainstorming. So I feel good to be able to talk about the acquisition model as a whole. But I've been with Ariat for a collective total of about over 5 years. I did a brief stint at Gymboree, that's what I always say, until things went under there, and I came right back because I loved it so much. I missed it, so I came right back to Ariat. And things are great. I mean, we're as a company, we're really valuing, you'll hear this throughout my conversation today, but as a company, we really put our customers first. And I know you guys do, Conductor, as well. I've got tons of shirts that say that, I think, as well.
The marketing works now. I'm glad that you, hopefully you feel that beyond a t-shirt, but yeah, good to hear.
Definitely. But yeah, things are great. You know, this is an absolutely crazy time in today's world. I think it's really interesting because I've got, you know, my two channels that I'm constantly cradling are, you know, organic search and this affiliate marketing side. And affiliate marketing, you know, it's scaling accordingly constantly. So, you know, if things are up, we're up, things are down. So we're not doing a whole lot quite yet in terms of like trying to really do some acquiring of content on the affiliate side, mainly because it's not the most appropriate time right now. So as you can probably tell, we're just kind of scaling that as the business grows. But on the organic side, we're seeing some crazy things. And I actually just did a deep dive report looking just March on a daily scale, so looking at every single day this past month, excuse me. So I can really speak today. And what we've noticed is a crazy trend. So revenue is actually staying strong in organic search, which is awesome for me. It's you know, we're not seeing a whole big shift here. Our top products have still kind of remained consistent. And then from the click side of things, we are significantly down. It's we're actually quite ashamed. So we were trending up about 20 to 30% in clicks at the beginning of this month, and we're I'm sorry, 20 to 30% year-over-year increase at the beginning of this month. We've now gone to about a 1% increase, and it's still kind of trailing down. And after doing some deep diving, it's really the shopping behavior. You know, people on our site specifically just aren't browsing; they're not shopping as much as they used to. We're having a ton of people coming in, and they're still buying and they're still converting for our products that we consider are key for essential workers. You know, if you guys don't know our company, Ariat serves cowboy boots, work boots, and equestrian boots, and apparel accordingly that goes with them. And our work boots and our cowboy boots are still going really strong because people need those right now, especially the work boots. Their construction is an essential worker, and that's part of our customer. That's one of our core customers right there. So what we're seeing is that people are coming to the site and still buying through organic, which is great. And our top non-brand terms are still super performing great. Our top brand terms are performing great, but the shopping behavior is just completely gone. You know, people are no longer coming to our site just to browse and to shop for fashionable things. People aren't necessarily coming in and looking for some of the more the high-end luxurious items. What we're seeing is our top products, which has always been these essential worker products, these utilitarian products, are still really strong. So it's been really interesting to see the revenue still, Google Analytics, you see a nice strong curve, but the clicks in your Google Search Console are just you can see just going down and down. So it's good news and bad news, I guess. We're still serving the right customers, and the customers are happy with our product, and they're still able to shop us as they needed. But unfortunately, we're just not seeing that shopping behavior across the board. It's just going down.
Interesting. So Brent, if we think about that, we've been having a conversation recently on more of the, I would say, this week's shows about, and I've made this hypothesis that in a world post-COVID where, let's just say we're in a recession, right? Which is probable for a while. Dollars mean more to people, so people don't spend them as easily, which means that while they may window shop, they also recognize that window shopping is a bit of an addiction to a degree, and also makes them more likely to shed that money. So much like an addiction to anything else, they will kind of try and stay away from those sites or those things. Have you looked into net new user acquisition versus whether these are repeat customers to see where that buying behavior is actually happening? Because are net new people needing these items and recognizing that as wow, didn't know you guys existed through organic? Or do you think that this is mostly the retention of your clients, the LTV, the lifetime value of those clients is really what's at stake here and keeping your business afloat?
That's a great question. To be honest with you, I haven't looked at the specific numbers, but what I can speak to is because going back to this essential worker piece, a lot of the doors that we ship to, a lot of our wholesale partners, because we are a digital online e-commerce brand as well as a wholesale brand, a lot of those doors have closed shop. The stores that have the more fashionable products, or stores that have a large selection of all of our products, have closed, while the Workman's Warehouse type of businesses and the tech and feed stores are still open. So what I can say is that we are getting new customers to the site during this time, because it is our website is the only place you can get a product right now for a lot of these people. The local shop where they used to drive to is gone. So I think from a brand side of things, we're not necessarily, our brand isn't getting out there as much as it used to be, especially because we pulled back a little bit in paid, and I can talk about that too. But from a new customer acquisition, we are getting those new customers who are coming to experienceariat.com for the first time. So that's exciting. That's great. And hopefully, we're serving them as how they want to be served in this time of need. But ideally, when things go back and those wholesale partners are able to open their doors back up, our brand has always been a big believer on serving customers where they want to be served. So if they want to be able to go to that store and buy that product, then that's all fine too. So yeah, I don't have the specific numbers, but I do think it has an effect.
Interesting. So that's something to think about too. I mean, if the first time your customer experiences you during a pandemic, right? I mean, that's a weird thing to say, but let's say during a time of crisis, that we can open this up to more than just this one experience, but it is a unique experience, and we all agree it's a unique experience. Do you think that there's a different way to service a customer during this time than there is in general? In other words, okay, so I've never recognized your brand. Are you guys like, this just leads to a question and it's no judgment whatsoever. How are you guys shipping? Are you guys good with supply and and demand in terms of that sort of stuff? Were your products made in the US, or do you have like a supply chain issue coming from other countries, things like that? Like, because I assume like shipping probably might not be as quick. I know through Amazon, for example, non-essential products, which, we could argue if for some people it would be, and for some products it might not be that you guys carry are considered essential. They've stopped and turned Prime into like 2-3 weeks. So instead of getting it like 2 days. So kind of where do you guys sit on that spectrum of like availability to deliver on the brand promise? And then how do you kind of message that to your customer along the way?
Yeah, that's another great question. I can speak firsthand for the Amazon Prime thing. I've been waiting for oatmeal for like 3 weeks. Ridiculous.
That is not essential. Your oatmeal addiction is not essential, Brent. You will have to wait. Trust me, I've been waiting for, and this sounds so bougie, but I have been waiting for a steak. I have not had like a good piece of meat in a really long time, and it just showed up from Amazon Prime. I heard the door like ring, and we were waiting for a spot on Amazon. My wife screamed when we got a spot on Amazon. What is Amazon Fresh to have it sent?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Anyway, I digress. So go back to your point. You've been waiting for your oatmeal, but are people waiting for your products?
Yeah, so we right now we don't compete with the 2-day shipping. We're just not set up to do that quite yet. But what's good is that we do have a healthy, strong supply right now. I'll praise our CEO and our senior team. They took strides the past 3 years to really diversify our supply chain as a whole. Originally we had a lot of stuff coming from China, and now we have factories across the world. And I think we've actually, I want to say, reduced our dependence on China by 50% before this even happened.
Wow.
Issues with the factories years ago, issues with the tariffs currently. So I really praise our senior team for being able to accomplish that. It's hard, but it's a hard feat. We've had the same factories for quite 25 years as a brand. So it's about 23 of those years were the same factories. And so really diversifying the supply chain has helped. So unfortunately, we can't necessarily compete with that 2-day shipping, but we do have a really healthy inventory. On top of that, I think, and you mentioned this too, but messaging is so important right now.
Yeah. Do you share that? Do you tell people that you guys, are you openly telling people that you have that supply chain is great and we've got stuff for you, shop with us? Like, is that a message you guys are going out to the market with, or no?
No, not necessarily. I think as a team, we've really been really cautious about this right now, about what this means and what this means to everyone affected by this. We understand that we serve essential workers, and when a product that doesn't serve essential workers, they're definitely affected by this, and even the essential workers are affected by this. So as a brand, we basically made a decision that our messaging is going to be very, very, very simple and very coherent, just saying we're here for you. We want to be here for you. We want to help serve you. We've had a homepage message for, I want to say, the past 2 weeks since it started, just, letting them know, like, to our families, to our workers, to our farmers, to all these people who are affected by this. We want to make sure that we're here for you, but we're not going to specifics and letting them know about, like, shop now. You would never see anything like that on our site right now, just because of how cautious the team wants to be. And I really do value that messaging. I think it's important. The other thing too to talk about is that our acquisition team has kind of restructured our paid strategy around this right now. We see a lot of companies, are shifting their messaging or shifting their initiatives. But one big thing that we've done to really change it is they developed this whole non-intent advertising the kind of strategy. So anything that's non-intent, we've pulled back significantly on. So anything like retargeting, anything like Facebook ads, anything we're like trying to force something down, I don't mean to say force something down someone's throat, but hey, look at us, here we are. We're stopping, we're pausing that. And we're doing a bigger emphasis on like paid search. Like if someone's actually wanting to show that they want a cowboy boot, making sure that we can show up there for them at that point. So it definitely has been a strategy from the top down of just, how do we be sensitive about this? And I think the other thing too is because we have such a big wholesale history as a brand. We've only been an e-commerce brand for about 5 or 6 years. And so, that's 25 years of relationships we built on. And so we want to make sure that we're just being super sensitive during this entire time.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, the customer is key, and I've always said that, and we really do believe it beyond a t-shirt. but being able to put them first in a way that they feel it is very important. I guess when I was getting at the messaging, I'm wondering whether or not even the shop now, because that's not by any means what I want to do, but just, it's funny. I bring this up almost every show, so it's kind of getting a little probably redundant for some folks, but logistics is pretty interesting. I guess, like, how aware were you of your company's logistics before this thing hit? Like, because I would almost challenge that many marketers probably are not as cognizant of typically the logistics of their organization. Like, actually, to your point, like, hey, we've got China and the factories and the situation. Maybe those came in like an all company email, but like your knowledge base of those things isn't as intense, because most companies hopefully haven't run into the problem of not being able to deliver the products for their clients, or not in mass, whereas I think a lot of companies now are having to face that. So how in tune were you with that beforehand? And like, where was your source of information, or where's been your source of information? Have you had to do a crash course on, logistics and inventory, or what, give us a sense of what that looks like from your perspective.
Yeah, no, great question. I think the most recent information is just like you said, at a company meeting, where that's something we are proud of. So it was something we were voicing out at a company meeting, letting them know that this is a strategy that we've been working on for several years. But one thing I can say is, before that, when I was a wee little Brent, when I just came out of college and working for Ariat as a marketing coordinator, I was on the sourcing team. So basically, what we did is we sourced print material. And eventually that got me into the digital marketing world. But back then, the print material we were working with, and working on we worked with packaging teams and working with the supply chain teams as a whole, making sure that everything was arriving at the same time as arriving to our doors at the same time as the product. So at that time, actually, I was super in tune with the logistics. So I knew about some of this earlier on, which was really cool. And I think it was, I can't remember the exact factory or what the city was, but there was that big fire that happened several years ago in China, and that was kind of our first taste of like, let's do something different here. And I was able to be in some of those meetings and be with our director of logistics, or VP of logistics, and just being able to be present in those meetings was a lot right then. But now, unfortunately, it is just it is a company meeting, as a company initiative, which is great. We all stand behind, but it was kind of cool to see it from the beginning to now.
Yeah, it's amazing seeing you're the second e-commerce brand this week we speak to. One from, if you guys haven't caught that episode, by all means, go look at Dan Patmore and Claudia Higgins from Argos with us the other day. Days are blending together, so I don't know. It wasn't yesterday. It was the day before. Would that be Tuesday? Yes.
It was Tuesday.
Tuesday. Thank you, Pat. It's interesting. They also, because of logistics and the way they established themselves early on, much to what Pat's been saying about, again, common themes, planting the seeds that will be the shade of the trees that you will, bask under later. Because of the recognition of these things, they were able to have a more distributed model and survive, also because of them being part of an essential business proposition. So I think it's very interesting to see that, and it kind of future casting where this all goes. Maybe we as digital marketers need to be more in tune with supply chain in general. I don't know if that's something you can really divide yourself from, because you can do the best content, you can create the best content, you can get people there, but you can even work in UX, UI, and CRO and help them get to the register, right? But even if there's something on the mannequin and they can't actually get it, so to speak, it's kind of a faulty or a fool's errand, right? Like, we end up working so hard to get the people there who have the desire and want the product, and then we can't deliver. Granted, COVID is a much larger excuse right now for that. But as our interdependency, you think about people in government now are talking about how health production of, ventilators shouldn't be happening in other countries and so forth. I guess, are there any thoughts to you guys as to change in production, like where production should be done? I mean, it sounds like they've already done that to a degree, but are you guys even thinking about producing in the US more or anything like that because of this? Has that even been talked about?
No, it's a great question. To be honest with you, I'm not sure if that's something that's being spurred more because of this, but it is something we've always tried to see. As you can imagine, a Western brand that has certain products with a made in China stamp on the bottom, it's not,
Right.
it's not the best look. When I was handling social media advertising, part of my job was just to comb through the comments and try to, put out the fires when people would start off, because, you've got Jeb from Texas who just, wants to start a fight on the comments about an ad because, one of our boots with the American flag is made in China. So it's definitely, I think it's an initiative for a company that we can definitely look into. That we are definitely looking into. We also have a sister brand called 224. And when that product first launched, and that brand is a much more fashionable brand, the idea is that, you can experience Ariat through your typical channels, which is like cowboy boots, Western boots, or work boots. And then over here, you've got this, great fashionable brand, which is made with the same cores, the same values that Ariat's been building over 25 years, but now is in a great fashionable boot with a great fashionable product. And with this brand, originally we want to have as much made in America as possible. And I think through some hiccups and through things we got to, we didn't get as we had to eventually, adapt and do some stuff made in Spain, do some stuff made in Mexico, all this other stuff. But we still focus strongly on having that certain products have the assembled in the USA stamp. So at least we still have some sort of attachment there. And those products are the ones that do the best too, which is great. I don't know if it's the marketing story or what it is behind it, but people really do try to grab to those products.
Interesting. That's
yeah. And from a messaging standpoint, when you guys, so for the ones that are assembled in America, do you guys build, is it just the marketing team that handles stuff like that, or do you, have you suggested, hey, can we create content specifically aimed towards, hey, these things are assembled in America? Because clearly it's important to, to a core of your customer base.
Yeah, so we scream it on the PDP. We also scream it on paid social as much as we can, especially for like DPA targeting ads for those specific products. But I think it's something we can definitely grow from. It's definitely something we could pivot to. It would be great if Ariat had some more of those products though, because I think Ariat's where there's a really big opportunity there to just show, hey, look what we're doing now. Yeah. Whereas 224 is still growing. It's still a pretty infant brand. But yeah, no, I love that idea.
So that's an interesting point. I love that, Pat. You know what might be really interesting? Let's take this into practical world. What if we were to look at made in America plus work boots plus, your core terms, and then start looking at Google Trends and start seeing if those are going up? Only because I think people may start equating, and this is going to be very interesting in terms of maybe people aren't going to care where their products are made. I think in your case, they definitely are, because there's a certain persona that is much closer to that. And I get that. You're not putting an American flag on a boot and then not having it made in the USA. It kind of, those two things are a juxtaposition. So I understand why there might be an issue there for people. But plus that Jeb, you don't want to get him angry in Texas. But he'll troll you online. But when we think about that, maybe there's a way to show management, especially, and I'm not saying use it now per se, but I guess this is a great time to look and see, are people going to care more about where their products are made, because they're going to see what happens when products are dependent upon somewhere else in the world, and start to query whether, people who never cared about, again, like myself, never really thought about supply chain and where things come from, are now being forced to think about those things because they're finding shortages in items, whether that be toilet paper or ventilators to save people or masks they couldn't get their hands on, or, all of these things, right, are have a lot to do with things we the average layman, much like most people, don't know much about SEO, who aren't in our industry, right? It's just, you type into Google and you get the results. They don't know we're all behind it, not puppeteering, but playing with everything, trying to make things show up that should show up, and essentially there's a whole industry behind that, right? Well, I don't think people think about how I place the order with Amazon and it shows up in my house. It's magic. Nobody needs to know what that magic is made of, right? And what if they do that searches? And that would be very interesting for people to start looking made in, or where things are made, whether queries are starting to increase for that, because people will now start thinking of that as a buying requirement, much like shipping used to be.
Yeah. It's interesting, because you're basically suggesting that you could use search data to try and change a company's, how they acquire and make and production line.
Well, if people
would
care
wonder
about it, if people care about it, why wouldn't you listen?
I would wonder in a time like this, would they be more open to even discussing that? Because I feel like if you walked into, like an executive's room who's in charge of, be like, hey, like I really want to change the way that we like produce our product, based on this. I don't think that you might not get the meeting, but I wonder if a time like this, people would actually be more open to listening to that. Because I think after this, you're gonna have people thinking about that, right? Like all the shortages, being dependent on other countries to to produce things, when if we just made it here, we could have we could control the production of it. I mean, I think it's an interesting idea just to see, it's like, hey, listen, like, there's millions of Jebs, that are out there that would buy our product, but they just don't like our brand because they bought it once and it said made in China on the bottom, like something like that, so it's interesting that you could make that case. I just wonder if beforehand, I would say, you probably won't get the meeting, but after this, I think you might have a shot.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. It's funny too, because we do have some competitors who have made like a select line in America, and now like just from, I mean, we know because we see through it, but unfortunately a lot of our customers don't, where they scream that line on all these paid channels, and now people are assuming that everything they do is made in America. When in reality, it's like 4 pieces of product. It's not nearly the whole thing. But yeah, it's crazy to see how that can actually move the needle too. And the other thing I'm thinking about too is, as you're talking, I'm brainstorming in my head, it's like, our product has already been deemed okay to serve essential workers. So therefore, if we were able to open a factory building that product in America, maybe that would also help serve those essential workers and still be qualified as essential work. But yeah, it's a cadence effect. I think it's a really good topic.
Yeah, it's a great thought, like in regards to that whole concept that you're saying about essential work and how, I was talking to some video folks on a small entrepreneurial webcast, and there were a bunch of video guys that said, oh, well, part of our videos dried up, right? But because we work for some of these bigger companies under a 1099, but like a specific way, and their work, the media companies, are considered essential work, we're still allowed to go out and shoot. So like there's this weird like what is essential and isn't essential has like started to evolve as something that, I don't know if that was really, I think you're right. Like, and in the future, I think we'll see legislation happening around this too. What's deemed essential and what's not deemed essential, right? Because Pat and I might argue whether a liquor store is essential or not during this time.
My answer, Stephan.
I'd say stock up and get over it. And he'd be like, hell no, I want to go to the liquor store. But I mean, it's interesting to see these things, and I think there definitely will be a shift in the mindset of where stuff is made. I really hope it doesn't go in an ethnocentric way. Like it's sort of, if you're old enough to be like me with the gray hairs, in the 1980s, if you guys will recall, when Japan and the US were fighting over car manufacturing, and it was a really big deal, so I'm talking under Reagan at this point, there were a lot of ads made in the USA. I don't know if you guys can remember that. A lot of TV ads would say made in the USA. Products would say made in the USA. The tagline made in the USA was not, I believe, owned by anyone as a brand. It was literally an open-ended, you use this as, and there was a whole, if I'm not mistaken, there was a whole legislation process to ensure that it was made in the USA. So while, I think that could easily be about this, hopefully it doesn't get hijacked as a, we don't want anything from anywhere else in the world, because we are global, as you can tell. A virus can come from one place and go to another place pretty damn quick. So we are one global society, and hopefully that's what we get out of this thing. But I love that point. What surprised you, Brent, so far in looking? Like, have you been looking at your internal search a lot? We've been asking this to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Your chat logs, other sources of data that otherwise, without MSV, aren't pointing you in the right direction. So you're kind of taking bets based on what you're seeing in other, maybe less traditional sources of search data.
Yeah, great question. Internal search is actually, I also manage internal search for the company as well, or for Air.com specifically. And what we've noticed really, really interesting is that every one of our product has a style number attached to it, a 8-digit style number. And we have had, but in the last month, in March, we have seen the use of that style number to be searched significantly more than any other month previously. It actually helped me recently in an IT conversation because we had to pick it to fix some of the nuances with that search by style number function. And luckily I had this large data to pull from specifically in March. And so people are actually trying to find specific products now versus before they were, you know, a lot more browsing behavior, which is kind of interesting because now you're seeing when our top products that are being searched by style, other than like our Dixon, which is like a top fashion boot right now, and everyone wants a certain colorway and that's out of stock. But we also have, you know, our Workhog work boot, our Rambler Western boot, a ton of boots that are, you know, for these, you know, typical, not only essential workers, but people who want their tried and true cowboy boots, right? It's people who want a good classic staple they can still get. So people are looking for more specific products, which also goes hand in hand with what I'm seeing in organic search, right? Or in Google search, because people aren't browsing as much. People are coming to the site, they have a direct intention and they're buying. It could also be that, you know, a lot of those other types of searches aren't there anymore. So they're gumming it up because the shopping behavior is there. So I'm seeing a little bit more of a clear path now into that. But there's definitely more of a one-to-one need now in internal search where people are coming in and purchasing.
Interesting. And you've changed, it sounded like you were saying, have you changed anything in terms of the ability to look up by style, or look up by numbers and so forth based on that? In other words, would you say that's a direct learning to something you did in the UX UI or something like that you could have brought back, or that was already?
Well, we just made it better as of actually
this.
As of this morning, we just made it better. So I can safely say that everything I'm seeing from the past month is those queries are still being entered in. The results may have been a little bit different, but now we actually have a much better experience as a solve. But no matter what, the queries are still there, right? So people are still inputting that style number to try to find it more than they were in the past couple months.
Does the geography of who's coming to your site, has that changed? In other words, I would assume, and I'm going to be really like New York here, so I would assume there's a certain area in the US that is more prone to buying cowboy boots, right? Or the boots that you provide. Are you seeing that happening? Like, is it that the rest of the country is now less likely to buy these products, whereas before some of them were, and your core audience is still there and still buying? Or like, are you seeing any not demographic, but geographic change in the way people are coming to your site?
Not necessarily. I think what we have a very concentrated demographic right now for these types of products, these essential worker products, right? It's the people who are in those high places, especially for oil and gas. We do a ton of work for FR, and oil and gas, I think, has been kind of going down a little bit in the past couple months. But even then, that's still a really concentrated area. So you've got oil and gas, you've got some of like the work hubs in the world, like Texas and other places like that. And they're still really dense. I think what we're seeing in there, if we were looking at like a plot of America, you know, we still have the really dense areas. What you're seeing is like the outer rings, which would be a little bit lighter, you know, in the sense of like people who aren't shopping as much. Those are going down, but the dense areas are still staying strong and dense. And it's just because of that essential workers. So I think it's a combination of, and also, you know, cowboy boots is a fashionable thing. It's, you know, it's becoming more and more of a growing trend. And we can actually see that in the data too, that that cowboy boots are being searched more. It's being wanted more. People are wearing them to everything now, festivals, to work, all these different types of places. And I think too, because of that, like now you've got people who in the Bay Area who may have been looking for cowboy boots in the past, who don't necessarily need them for anything and just want to be fashionable. Yeah. They're no longer searching right now because they're not having that shopping behavior. So it's staying dense in certain places, but I do think overall we're seeing it just going to get a little tighter in those places in the demographic.
Yeah, it's hard to notice someone's shoes on a Zoom meeting, right?
Yeah, and Brent, there's actually a great Merch in the chat asked a great question. Just can you talk a little bit about like the affiliate strategy? He's doing consulting for a small shoe company, weightlifting shoes, and could use some tips. And Merch, if you have anything else you want to chime in with, but he just wants to know like any strategies around affiliate. Merch, anything you want to add before he goes off?
Not really. We've tried to do affiliate stuff at Roaming Hunger, which is my normal job, and I just feel like I don't know a lot. So maybe like a broad overview and then like specifics about what you guys are doing in terms of shoes, like who are you guys reaching out to? How do you set up sort of a deal? What are some things for a novice to sort of learn before I dive in and kind of screw something up?
That's a great way to put it. What I will say is that if you're trying, this is something that we've experienced here. if you're trying to break into those bigger publications, like let's say you have budget, you've got, a couple thousand sitting around, and you really want to get in some sort of paid placement, whether that's be like on a specific high-end blog that is like is really hard to penetrate, or some mass media publication. What we found is that it's nearly impossible to contact those people unless you know who to contact off the bat. What we're finding is like we were constantly sending emails down this black hole of trying to find all these emails to get the right person to talk to, and we couldn't penetrate it at all. In the past couple months, what we have done is we have signed on an agency that's going to help us with that. But I don't want to say like, hey, spend a bunch of money on an agency, that's your only answer. What I'll say is what we did in the past year to combat that, and what we did is we went from having a tool, an affiliate network tool that was super closed off, very hard to basically contact anybody with this tool or to be able to get someone in this tool other than the publications we're familiar with. And since then, we've gone to another tool, and it's called Impact, and that's the tool we're on now. And what this tool has allowed us to do is it's allowed us to actually empower partners to sell the product. So what we've done in the past year, because we couldn't get the publications, all we were really penetrating was coupon sites. What we did is we said, hey, let's find all these people on YouTube. Let's find all these people on Instagram who are actively already talking about our product. Let's activate them, and then let's reward them by getting them into the affiliate program. So now if you are, if you were already talking about Ariat cowhide boots on your farm and ranch channel or your homesteading channel, or you're already wearing, for example, weightlifting, if they're already wearing these shoes or they're wearing something similar, send them that free product and tell them, hey, we're going to empower you to do this. Here's a percentage commission structure for you. If you guys are able to sell this product, this is definitely a grassroots program, but you can hire someone who, actually we had an intern who really helped us with this program named Wesley. And since then he's become a coordinator on our team because of how well he did, because he was just trying to find these people, and he was literally building sheets, long spreadsheets that I would go in and approve. He'd contact them, he'd send them products, and he'd give 10% commission, whatever the percent commission was that we deemed to fit. And that really helped just grow this huge program. Whereas now, like you go on YouTube, you search Ariat cowboy boots, we're everywhere. And it's people who are still authentically talking about the product because they were already, but now they're just stoked more because they're actually getting money back. So that's what I can say if you don't want to spend a whole lot of money, you want to get something off the ground really quickly. But unfortunately, with the publications, those bigger entities, you really have to have a connection with there or some sort of agency that can build those connections for you. It's an unfortunate world we live in, but I think it's the only way you can do it.
So if we take that and we break it down into steps, let's say step one, and I'm trying to make this so we can turn this into a strategy. So step one, we define who is talking about our brand currently that we aren't in an affiliation with because they've already chosen to do that, right? Maybe step 1A would be figure out whether or not those pages they've written and or blogs or sites they run actually get traffic, right? Look them up, throw them into Explorer. If you have Searchlight, throw them into any kind of other product you have regarding search that can give you some sense of what the organic traffic at least is for those sites. Step two, broaden that funnel to now the general shoes, the specific shoes, of course, in this case, it'd be weightlifting shoes. Again, we need whiteboards, right? But broaden that group a little bit more because that's going to be a much larger group that doesn't necessarily talk about your brand. Maybe even omit the ones that are talking about your competitor brands so that you're not going to convince someone if they just said something generic about, the shoes, about just weightlifting shoes in general, then go to them and see if, okay, their content is relevant. They write more than just one piece. Because if it's just one article, nobody needs to create an affiliation for the fact that, a lifestyle blogger just wrote one article about weightlifting and that was it, right? And they happen to mention shoes. And then after that, take it a step further, potentially go after the ones that have competitors there, offer yourself up as an alternative. That's more of like a switch, right? Getting someone to switch from something, they don't have to be, but check that they're not already in affiliation with them and then say, hey, have you checked out this product, blah, 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 and see if you can, it's that, again, not being an expert. And by the way, Brent, can I just say I love you for saying that because, and you're on my left on my screen, because you are 100% bringing us back to, and I hope people are watching multiple episodes because you will see themes and trends, man. Yeah. If I just had the time to write these up. Ross Simmons Monday talks about distribution, talks about acquisition, talks about clients, how we need to understand the conversations they're having, where they're having them, and so forth. I am constantly beating the drum of the authors of pieces of content are influencers. They will write the next great piece of content that will rank well. You can try to compete with them, or you can just realize that they can be part of your advertising schema and process. So in this case, recognizing that these people, who they are, where they are, and reaching out to them as opposed to trying to like convince a whole company who resells to actually resell your stuff is a different story. So I love that approach. Brent, pick my idea apart. Does the strategy hold up? Tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think that works on a macro level. I think the two things I'll say on a micro level here is, you know, if your brand has a cool story, scream it out. You know, if you have any, not only the story itself, to let people know like stuff they may not know about your product before, but also these people are smart. These YouTubers specifically that we're working with are super smart, and to the point where like they know terms like AOV. So if you let them know your AOV, if you're comfortable with that, and they think they can put in their own head saying, hey, if I get one order and I have no idea what your weightlifting shoes are, but it's like $80, you know, at $80, I know I can confidently I get people to buy this. I know every order I'm gonna get $8 back. You know, let them do those calculations because they're really smart. And also the second part is, and I kind of mentioned earlier, but don't sleep on YouTube. And I think we talk a lot about content creation and like ranking well on Google. But YouTube is just so big from this not only this ranking standpoint from a search standpoint, but also just this touch and feel standpoint. You know, people identify with these people so well because they're in their daily lives every day. They're constantly uploading. You know, don't sleep on YouTube. It is such a huge benefit, and it's crazy. It's small. It'll start slow, but you'll start to see all these great effects. I mean, if you go into we go into Google Analytics every day, and we check out our campaigns, we check out our source medium, and we check out we also look at the attribution windows to see like, hey, if we reverse the attribution window and look not necessarily post-click, but last click, all these different things, we can see that this channel gets so much stronger from just a first-click standpoint because people are coming to the brand for the first time here. Then maybe we'll hit them later on Facebook. We'll hit them later on organic search. Obviously not as much now because what's going on. But, you know, people are coming into our brand for the first time from these influencers on YouTube. So I think definitely, Stephan, agree with you on all those pieces, but also just look at those two smaller pieces I just mentioned.
Yeah,
cool.
I mean,
I'll send you the money later.
That's another theme, right? That we've been talking about is, you know, is video in general, and just, you know, and YouTube again. I completely agree. You know, and a lot of people have been sleeping on YouTube for a long time because it doesn't get that, you know, that immediate bang. You know, that a lot of people, because, you know, again, it comes back to a lot of people think that you need to have these high quality videos to put on there, and that's not necessarily the case anymore. And I think that, you know, as people have become more used to, you know, talking through video as we've throughout the last couple of weeks, I think that YouTube channels will have a lot more content. It would be great. You know, you might have few employees from certain brands, you know, just, you know, uploading video and just taking it, you know, and creating series out of it. So I agree that video, YouTube, especially, you know, creating that channel and nurturing it and giving it the time and attention that it deserves could have, you know, will pay off in the long run for your brand.
Yeah, so you're 100% right, Pat, and I think like take what we've learned, right, so far, and if you go back again and look at some of the other episodes we've had, yesterday I made mention of an auto insurance company, possibly, you know, using animations to rank and do really well in the auto insurance space, that we were finding like 65% of like page one results were YouTube videos for, like, you know, safe driving and other things like that were really important. And so I think when we think about where YouTube goes, we know that right now everyone has become accustomed, or to a degree, though most of you refuse to get on camera. Most people are on camera in their work situation now, and the concept of actually creating content, because technically we're recording this, so there is content here, right? The idea of building content is a lot easier than you thought. Will video quality go up? Yes, I'm going to make a bet that if you are producing laptops, you're thinking right now of that little camera that's facing people, and you're figuring out the megapixels and how it needs to be better, because they've been selling it to us on the phones for a while, but they haven't talked about it ever in terms of, or at least not that I've been paying attention to, in regards to laptops. Now that this is becoming a fundamental mechanism by which we, you know, the quality of the picture you're going to get through your laptop is going to matter more. And I think, to the point we were making yesterday as well about the cost of these things, I think the cost of these things are going to have to go down and the quality is going to have to go up. So creating a good quality is going to be easier, cheaper. I don't think editing gets taken care of. So I still think, you know, having a good editor, having someone who can do that stuff, put it all together for you, I mean, is always like a awesome thing to have if you can afford to do that. But I think that we're moving towards a world where, yeah, content, you know, what is it? YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world, technically. And who knows if it'll be the first after this, but man, it's, you know, we're going to be we are consuming a lot of video content, but hell yeah, we're creating a lot of it too. How do you guys handle video at Ariat? Is that like are you a part of that? Is there a whole team? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so I want to start real quick. I want to touch on two things that you just mentioned real quick, but that are huge. We have a direct line with our Google reps specifically who handle YouTube, and they're constantly trying to get us to do more YouTube advertising. And I think the last number they mentioned is like the first week of March, they saw a 20% increase in YouTube activity, and that was still like when people didn't even know what was going on. And on top of that though, the idea that you're mentioning it earlier about like webcams and all this stuff, like the first 2 weeks you couldn't buy a webcam on Amazon and Best Buy because they all sold out. And not only that too, but we're currently I see so many things, so many like, you know, big long form texts on Facebook specifically about like how this is changing the world and how, you know, we'll never be the same after this. But if that is the case, as a brand, hop on this as soon as you can, right? If people are, you know, people are going to be on YouTube, people are going to be on video, get in there as quick as you can. So I think that's, you know, now's the time. Now is specifically the time. It's almost like the stock market. You know, you can. I'm sorry, not the stock market now, but you know, if you saw a stock rise, you know,
definitely not the stock market now.
Not the stock market now, right? But if you saw something that, you know, you saw a shoe in, this is the time. You have the ability to, you know, if you have money to buy in the stock that you know is going to be a shoe in, if you have the ability to do this for your company, do it. And I think that gets into my point, Stephan, or your question about video as a whole. One thing, our company has been a little bit slow to video, to be fully honest with you. I think that's why we've done so much with YouTube influencers, because we can, you know, spread ourselves throughout these channels versus doing it ourselves. But we have some really cool stuff in the works. Come June or July, we'll actually be able to start publishing content on our site, longer form text content. We just had some serious technical limitations that prevented us from doing that. But now we'll actually be able to do that. And as a team, you know, the team also sees so much emphasis in video. And for all these like educational content that we're going to be creating, we're going to be pairing them with videos as well. So now, you know, you'll be able to find a piece on how to clean your cowboy boots, stuff like that. Whereas before, you know, we didn't really have anything. So we're hoping that, you know, our domain authority combined with, you know, these perfect keywords are going to let us really climb to the top for some of these educational pieces. But also, you know, we're going to really penetrate the video market in YouTube by having an accompanying piece. So we're not there yet, but I think we are making strides to get there soon. We're also talking about how to leverage like influencers for doing live streams right now to help us out. You know, how can we have somebody live stream on our behalf on our YouTube channel? So we're getting there. We're a little slower, but I think we'll be there by the end of the year for sure.
No, that's cool, because what it does, and hopefully everyone's taking from this, is there is an in-between having a whole video production hoopla with and I'm making assumptions. I don't know how much of a studio you guys have set up or anything like to that extent, but like there's a large investment in having people full-time doing this, and, you know, having all the equipment, and it can grow way high, way quick, right? But there's also the advantage of there's already people doing this where they don't need that setup. They're already making money through the channels. You just need to find them. You need to build the relationships with them, which is essentially where we started that part of the conversation, and be able to let them do what they do best and then do it on your behalf. So there's almost like a middle ground towards getting to the place where you guys can be the authority writing about or doing video about it, where I think it's also interesting. And Pat, I think you're going to think of the reseller I'm thinking about. If you're sales folks, or if someone in that case, if you have brick and mortar, right? If you have someone who does the training for sales folks, for example, is an expert in product lines and so on, that might be the person you get in front of the camera. That might be the authority source who trains your folks as to how to sell in store, is actually the person that you end up having talking about your products, creating product videos, having those things show up and being the expert. And you build an authority around an individual they can trust, right? Because there's something about saying how to clean shoes is one thing, right? And showing me that, but having a face with someone that I can actually interact with at the beginning changes the dynamic of a how-to or anything else. I think it puts more trust in it. We've talked about that and how emotional, the value of video is a lot more than textual. So you have a third dimension to it. As flat as it may be on our screens, it's three-dimensional in someone's mind and emotional state in terms of body language. So I think if you can use that to your advantage as a brand, especially in a time like this, people are furloughing. I bet you the person who's working at that company, Pat, who I'm talking about, is probably not training any new employees. But that person could definitely be making how-to videos right now. Or if it's not how-to videos, then it's product descriptors and talking about the value propositions of how to choose certain products, things like that, which almost is like what a YouTube influencer would do, but they do it on behalf of your brand. And you probably already have that product expert in your company right now. And that person has never been leveraged in that way by the company. So yes, there's a liability in tying your company's name to that one person. We've seen that, right? Jared from Subway. But you don't have to be as crazy about this person. It could be a group of individuals. You might want to vary it up in terms of demographic, psychographic of the individual in front of the camera so that it connects more with your audience. But it's just food for thought as to how I think you might be able to bring that together into a strategy that's a little more. We have 7 more minutes. I'm wondering if there are any questions. We have a lot of folks here on the call. So wondering if anyone wants to throw something in the chat or come out from the shadows and ask a question. Brave souls. Come on, marketers. I know someone has to have a question.
I will say shout out to my area team. I do see a couple people from there too. So thank you for being here. I appreciate that. It means a lot to me.
Awesome. Thank you for joining, guys. All right. If we don't get questions, well, we know immediately I would not be doing my job if I didn't. Sorry. Needed to put my digital watermark. I know Brent's looking like, what is the matter with that dude? Digital watermark, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go look at the Ross Simmons episode about deep fakes. It's actually quite interesting. This may or may not be me, or perhaps my wife is controlling. She's always controlling. No. Anyway.
My wife's always controlling us.
I love her. I'm very lucky, actually. So I don't think I would have survived this pandemic without her. So I'm glad she flew back from Montreal to spend it in New York City, the epicenter of epicenters, with me. So actually, you know what, Brent, we didn't ask you this at the beginning. We probably should have. Where are you based out of, and how are things by you? I think it's important that we always talk about that.
Yeah, so we're, as a company, we're based out of Union City, and I made the plunge to live 15 minutes from the office, so I'm also close to Union City as well, which is south of Oakland. It's in between Oakland and San Jose. So you've got San Francisco here, Oakland here, San Jose here. We're right there in the middle, right across from the peninsula from Silicon Valley. And things are good. I think we're trying to do as a county and as a state, trying to be as quick as possible to act on this. Similar to, I know you guys being the epicenter in New York, I see the numbers. I see you guys aren't in the best place constantly, but we're trying to make sure, I think as a county, we're not ever, getting close to that or doing as much as we can now. So I do appreciate that. We've been under shelter in place for quite some time. Personally, me and my wife, we're doing great. To be honest with you, we're healthy, we're strong. We're running in the mornings together. We're working out together. I'm trying to do push-ups in between meetings, all this cool stuff. So things are good. I also enjoy working from home. I'm in my office/music studio right now, so I enjoy being here as much as I can. And our team and our company has done a really good job of trying to figure out the best way to do this. Our company is not a work from home company. We have certain people who can do it, but for the most part, this was a big shock to us. So our company has done a really good job of, biting pieces off. We basically had days where whole departments would try working from home first to make sure it would work okay, no problems. The next day, another department work from home, so on and so forth, until we scaled until the whole company could do it. I can't say enough good things about our senior team for doing that. I think it was quick, it was impactful, and now we're able to be, still working and be comfortable, which is super important to us. But yeah, the Bay Area is crazy. You went from having so much traffic to no traffic right now. You could get all the way to San Francisco in 20 minutes from where I was at. Before it was like an hour and a half.
Wow.
So it's definitely crazy to see people are definitely taking it seriously and staying home, which is good.
Good. I'm really glad to hear that. I think the more everyone can stay home, the better off and the faster this will all pass. And at the end of the day, that's really what we all want to see, because there's going to be some darker days ahead, as they've said. I'm definitely expecting that in New York, and I'm hearing that in my own networks as well. Had some friends come down with it, and luckily they are, as well as a fairly newborn. So just for everyone to know, within 1 year old, and actually are doing okay. So that's, it just takes a while to get out of your system. It really sucks. From what I've got a long diatribe of an email I can share with people if they want to know. The symptoms seem to come in very different formats. Not everything we've been being told, now it's the whole, like, I can't smell thing. So just be aware. There's a bunch of other things that might be out there. I think that someone said there were 8 strains of this thing going around. So whether or not, you get one symptom or another, it can, I'm not a doctor, so caveating that, but just be cognizant that, it can happen in a lot of ways, and then you can feel better supposedly, and it can come right back. So don't stop. If you think you got it and you stayed at home and you went through it, and you think you're better, give yourself another 3 or 4 days, and then just make sure, because like that, no one's talking about, but it just seems like that's what I'm hearing from a few friends that have unfortunately come down with this, and are now on the tail end of it, coming out of it, but yet saw themselves get better during it and come back. So food for thought there. Brent, I can't thank you enough, dude. You're just, it's been really enlightening, great insights today. I hope everyone really got a lot out of this, because it was, for me personally, I think I learned a lot. We talked about video, we talked about affiliate, we talked about supply chain. I mean, we've got a lot of stuff that we went through in one set of an hour. So really appreciate everyone joining us today. I am looking to see who we have on. I was going to say on tap, but that's our, that is our Search on Tap is our podcast that we have to get back up and running. But being that we're doing this every day at noon, I think we'll wait to bring that back to the picture. We are looking at, let me see, who is our guest tomorrow. Our guest tomorrow will be, if my thing will actually be Allie Harris, who will be talking to us about software, B2B software, what she's seeing happening in that space. She was working at Bitdefender previously, has a lot of experience in B2B software. So going to give us a sense of, who's seeing some ups in this, who's seeing some downs, and what's happening out there. Hopefully you guys will join us tomorrow. As I always say, please join us in the LinkedIn group. If I've sent you an invite, if I haven't sent you an invite, just ask to be invited to it. It's Search from Home on LinkedIn. We like to put a bunch of data in there. Please comment, share, bring folks into it, invite more folks to this thing. The more marketers we can help and learn from one another, the better off we are. If there are other guests you'd like to see, I am lining up stuff. Just got a confirmation from Rand Fishkin for next week, so that's awesome, and a whole bunch of other people. I'll be putting that out very shortly as to who's going to be on the show next week. We're almost fully booked for next week. So get excited. There's a lot of good things coming on this. Thank you all for searching from home, and please stay home and stay safe. All the best, my fellow marketers. Love seeing you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Brent.
Thank you.